Hello, everybody. Welcome to KFC SuperCoach TV. I'm Al Payton here. A few little health issues at my place and some technical ones too. So I'm taking on following the Phantom's lead here, using a little avatar. Hopefully that will work for me for the show and to maybe help me in my SuperCoach team as well. But got some esteemed SuperCoach experts here. We did have another one who's just disappeared. I'm not sure where he's gone. Hopefully he'll be back in a second. Well, I've just hit the wrong button. But Dan Bagala, of course, and SuperCoach Mama, M. Chalice, who won SuperCoach last year. Plenty to get into. Both of you probably haven't been on for a couple of weeks. Hang on, Dan's back. So Dan will be with us too. But Em, I might just throw to you first because we're obviously very keen to catch up on how your team's going. But your SuperCoach and AFL love, Tom Stewart, is in the news, obviously. How are you coping with this in your personal life and in KFC SuperCoach?
Yeah, I didn't take it very well. It was so funny though because Geelong won, and I was like mourning. I'm just like mourning Tom Stewart and like his reputation and everything because he's going to be I know for a fact he's going to be our future captain. So it's like fantastic. He's going to get booed by Richmond for 4 years, but anyway, it's okay. But yeah, it was a silly thing for him to do. It really was, and it just leaves a big hole because he's been my pod of the year. He's been the player that's hurt other people and it's helped me a little bit, but yeah, it's he leaves a really big hole in my team, and and I'm struggling and I'm running out of trades, and I regret being. Because I was a bit behind. I am now 6,000th, so I was 36,100,000 in round 6, and now I'm 6,000. So I'm kind of climbing the ladder, which is really exciting. But yes, anyway, I'm mourning my SuperCoach love of my life, and I tweeted a bit of where I'm going about, I'm sorry, Stuart, Mama's looking at getting a hall pass. It was a little bit of a joke. A bit of a joke because he's the love of my life. Anyway, SuperCoach life. So that yes, hall pass. But I am looking at hall because we can talk about that a little bit later if you like.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We'll definitely get into all that. And I was with you, a bit mixed, weird emotions watching that game. Obviously, an epic game as a Tigers fan, and I was just spewing with what Tom Stewart did. Obviously, Presty is such a gun player for us, and I was annoyed every time he got the ball, but then he was racking up points for my SuperCoach team, so it was really hard. So, a huge intercept right at the death, got him probably another 20 points, but probably saved the game. So, it was a tough one. But now I'm in a similar position to you that I need to replace him. I've only had him for a couple of weeks, but did at least get that one big score. But yeah, it's really going to be tricky given how much, I really don't have any money. So I think we can get into it. And if the Phantom was here, I know he'd be advocating for Jordan Dawson, who's been an awesome pick for him. He's really caught fire the last few weeks, and I'd love to get him in, but I'd have to use an extra trade to get him. So then, brings a few other players into the equation, like Aaron Hall, obviously is a big one who we know he can score well, but there's other potentially question marks over him. So we'll get into all those pretty shortly and some other discussions. Not everybody has Tom Stewart, but Dan Bagala, you've been on the road the last couple of weeks, so welcome back.
Yeah.
How's the Bagala Brigade tracking?
Yeah, I was in Phillip Island last Thursday, did a lap of the island, like Casey Stoner back in the day. And I actually really enjoyed myself down there. So I missed last week's chat, unfortunately. But I'm back and team's going well. Like I feel like I really played the bye as well. Got into the top 1K. And then last few weeks being on the back of being in a short squeeze, really not having Stewart, not being a non-owner, I've been really put behind the pack by about 150 points per week. So it's really hurt the last 2 weeks watching players like that explode. And a lot of my midfielders have underwhelmed. Petrarca's barely triggered a ton. Merritt's been sort of wavering around a ton per week. And then Ridley, he's sort of literally 90 points per week. And last week he really showed heart to finish that game against West Coast. But my plan is this week to hold firm and hope that Dogger, Jackson, and a few of those other players that have question marks over their availability do play this week. My team's pretty much got premium players on every single line. Obviously not to the ilk of Mama over there with like Stewart in the defence. But I've got 5 trades. I've got a bit of liquidity. So I've got about 45 grand and have no issues with injury this week. So hoping that there's no issue with Luke Jackson. I don't think there is. I saw him last night's 9 News or whatever. He was training, so it looks like he should be fine. But stranger things, like the television show, can happen in SuperCoach and they can miss. But team's humming along. I'm glad I finally missed an injury. I actually wrote a list of injuries 2 nights ago of how many I've had, and the list didn't even fit on a page. So there are a few coaches out there like myself that have been absolutely indoctrinated with injury. That's been the key of the season, has been injury. But I'm glad to avoid some of this suspension, injury problems, etc. But it was the right call. 4 weeks is probably appropriate. We've got to stamp that sort of stuff out. And Tom Stewart, I mean, he's got one of the cleanest records in the AFL. He's a lovely player. Like, he's so well regarded by his teammates and other players. So such a shame that happened, because he will probably face the chagrin of other people in the crowd yelling abuse and other things. But I mean, it's a shame. And he's the type of player that's pretty resilient. I don't think he's going to worry too much about that when he takes 10 intercepts or 17 intercept possessions in that last game. Like, unbelievable footballer to come from the Barwon Football League. So what a player, what a shock incident. But look, Andrew Gaff did it. Let's hope he can bounce back.
Yeah, that was to the what a great player, and then you're like
not to the hit.
And then I'm like, yeah. No.
Yeah, balance both sides of the ledger.
Yeah, no, when I've on Twitter, like I said, 2-3 weeks, but to be honest, I looked at how it would be rated, and I think 4 is on par. It had to be, with the concussion, with the injury. It was just so nasty. Like, they had to be at least 4, because that kind of concussion can't happen. It really can't. And then, like, I know, so we just need to stamp it out of our game, and we need to look at the action, not the player. And I really hope. I think Tom will definitely learn from it. Definitely.
Yeah. No, I think he'd probably agree with you from everything that's come out over the last few days. But it was pretty rough watching Dion there struggling for a couple of minutes on the ground and trying to get off. And
didn't stop the play. Interesting.
No, exactly. That was another question. But anyway, we can get into that maybe another time. But Dan, thanks for jumping on. How's your team looking? Are you dealing with any injury or problems this week? There's a few rumours going around. Dan mentioned Luke Jackson, and also there's some Rory Laird whispers happening that he could potentially be in danger of not playing this week.
Yeah, believe it was, I think, Channel 9 last night who reported that he may be in some doubt for the game. But I mean, last week we heard that he was, battling injury and playing sore, and he ended up having 11 tackles and 30 odd touches. So I wouldn't be too concerned. I mean, obviously we'll all come out in the wash tonight for Thursday teams. But yeah, in terms of my team, I'm tracking around where our SuperCoach Mama is. I'm around the sort of 6K mark, but it's been a little bit of a frustrating time because I'm not copying that many injuries at the moment, but my team is just sort of stagnating around the 3K to 8K sort of range. Went down 500 spots last week. I held on to Braden Preuss because I traded him in the week before. That was due to Alex Witherden, probably my worst pick, one of the top 5 worst picks ever in KFC SuperCoach. Someone in the comments who's got Witherden as well, who will be able to sympathise with me, probably one of the 300 other people that actually did trade him in. But yeah, so, I mean, it's looking okay. I don't have English. Obviously have Preuss. Didn't have Butters, so I traded him to Darcy Cameron. So I'm hoping to get a bit of a leg up this week. I do have 7 trades as well. So I'm sort of in an awkward spot where I'm not sure which premium to upgrade. I feel like if I upgrade Short, he's going to go big. If I upgrade Petrarca, he'll go massive against the Crows. So it's probably just going to be moving on one of those premiums. And even we saw yesterday a bit of a shock. Braden Preuss was listed as a test after a suspension. So I think he's pretty much the only bloke ever who could be a test for a suspension. But obviously he did suffer that ankle injury, but it would be classic GWS, wouldn't it, if he did miss this week. So fingers crossed he plays. Otherwise, I might have to pay up for a wit. So I didn't get last week and missed out on about 80 points.
Yeah, I've got hoping Preuss comes back this week too. So that could be a bit of a drama. But yeah, it would be because after he got suspended the first time, I thought GWS came out and said basically the ankle injury was fine.
Yeah.
And he'll be right in 2 weeks. And then, classic Giants.
Never again. Never again.
Never picking a Giants player again. Never.
I was looking up the stats during the week, and Preuss and Tim English, they both averaged about 110, 120, when they played. But they played, I think Preuss has played 7 games and English has played 8 out of, 15. So it's just been crazy sort of year. Yeah. So, English we don't think he'll probably come back. Well, hang on. Well, those teams would have come out
he's not playing tomorrow night. Sorry, he's not playing tonight. He's out. One more week. He'll play against Sydney next week.
Yeah. So, I mean, if
hopefully he'll play, they said.
Well,
so,
If you held him, Dan, Gal, if you still had English and you just copped the donut last week, now he's missing another week, would you just suck it up again, or would you be considering trading?
I think like it obviously comes down to your pursuit. Is your pursuit for ranking success or is your pursuit for league success? Like for me last week, I did the Dogger Jackson move and I was supremely pleased with the way it turned out. I think a few of us did that. And he just played at Ruck 2 for me for the week. And Teakle being on the Sunday game has been amazing for VC loopholes. So that's been great. If there are issues tonight being maybe Dogger is another out as well, I probably have to think about shorting English down to Darcy. Darcy's playing against a ruckless Port Adelaide on Sunday. And as we saw, Witt's piled on 150 points. He was actually 140 at three-quarter time. So he sort of flatlined in that last quarter. I'm a Witt's holder. But I do think that it depends on what your circumstances are. If you're entrenched in the top 100 ranked players like the Phantom, of course, you've got to go to broke. You've got to trade these players away if they don't get up, etc. But for me, I mean, I haven't served a donut at this stage. I mean, I moved heaven and earth to get Mitch Owens a few weeks ago, and he saved me 27 points, and he has not returned since with concussion. So, look, it comes down to that. If your rankings, trade away. If not, league. I think league, English will be like what Tom Stewart would have been, like a massive pod who will go 120 most weeks, like as he's done all season, and probably win you a few finals. And it means, like for me, holistically, I've got Dogger, Heaney, and English who can rotate through that ruck forward line. Like obviously Heaney can't move, but Heaney can produce the absolute occasional mare, like as he did last week, 3 goals and 59 points. So I'll have the flexibility to bring him on and off the field when it seems fit. So I do worry about Heaney. I brought him in last week for Butters, couldn't get to Bont, which was an absolute nightmare scenario, but I brought him in, and as we saw on the weekend, he wasn't getting enough of the footy, and his 3 goals didn't really correspond with a big score. So Heaney gives me concerns, and that's the sort of circumstances I'm in. But I would only trade English if you are chasing rankings. If you're league success, I'm guarantee he'll be back next week. That's my thoughts.
Yeah, personally, I don't think I can get Sean Darcy and Aaron Hall in the same week. I think that's just asking for a little bit too much trouble for me personally. If I get a Jackson donut, I will. Like Jackson hasn't made any money. Like it's going to be an absolute disaster. But we'll stop talking about it because he
won't miss. He won't miss.
But
yeah, just Dan, just what you were saying about your predicament. I reckon you should try to get either a M9 or an F7 or a one that you can alternate instead of shafting short or track. Trying to look at someone, I don't know, like Cameron's not cheap enough, but like in the fort, but someone who has really got a high ceiling, who should give you a 70, 80, someone that you could afford. I don't know what your trades are like, but even if you use 2 and down to 5, if you've got that swinging player, dependable player, even with as high a ceiling, then you can because I reckon that reliable cover is going to be gold. It is going to be absolute gold.
That's the thing. Sorry, you go up.
I was just going to say, Dan, if you're listening to the Phantom's Lair podcast this week, you had Maurora's Magic on there. Selby, who's about 30th overall, and he's looking at doing something like that with the player's name
Stringer,
he threw out was Jake Stringer. Yeah, who's like 350k or something.
A package.
Yeah, he's the ceiling that I'm talking about. Yeah.
Yeah.
I had Stringer for 2 hours last year. This is the last trade.
Oh, that's right.
What did he score in the final round to win you the
He would have done all right, yeah.
Yeah, no, he did. He got 110. The funny thing is was it Waterman who was the rookie I traded? Yeah. Oh, no, I didn't trade, but he got 90.
Oh, no, they nearly beat him.
I would have been fine with him on field.
I guess, the thing with that is, like, I've got 7 trades. It's just tossing up whether do I hold onto them a bit longer and then potentially get like that if there is another injury like a Stewart, for instance, I can just upgrade them to that top option like a Dawson or something like that, as opposed to others who are probably going to be looking at cheaper options in order to just have a little bit of cash for that potentially that last trade. And yeah, I mean, when I look at a guy like Jaden Short at the moment, he scored 480s in his last 5. If I can, and I've got no cash in the bank either, so I pretty much have to use 2 trades in order to really maximize that upgrade. So I guess I would be going maybe Jaden Short to Jordan Dawson. He's averaging 122 in his last 5 games. He's absolutely flying, taking the kick-ins, doing a lot better than he did at the sort of start of the season, really sort of eased into it, but it's just absolutely gone bang now. And we saw what he could do in the back half of last year as well. But yeah, could Jaden Short come out and have a decent end of the season, or and also if I did use those two trades, so my two and got like a player like a Stringer or something like that. So I've got I think my two most expensive rookies on the pine at the moment are Jacob Ware and McComb. So McComb gives me like 160k, but I'm only getting a 400k player anyway. So I guess and that player may not even play in the back end. And with the 7 trades I've got, I could be able to just sort of dodge those donuts anyway with those trades. So yeah, I think if I'm going to trade this week, it's also frustrating because I could have got Witts last week, but instead fielded McComb because he got a 60 and missed out on about 90 points there from Witts. And if Bruce doesn't play now, that's just going to look real silly. But at the same time, yeah, I reckon I may just go with Dawson because he could get me an extra 200 points in these 200, 300 points on Short in the run home.
However, Short, the Tigers' next 3 games are not too bad.
Yeah.
West Coast, Suns, North in the next 3 matches. So he should do okay. I don't know. It's up to you. But versus Dawson, definitely see the appeal. But yeah, I just think we're just getting we're getting injuries every week. Two a week. Like, I think trades are going to be so important.
I think that's a bit of a first word problem that you've got there, Dan. I think you're trying to literally manipulate another 5 points per week. What if, for instance, Jaden Short goes on a heater and Dawson starts to get tagged and all of a sudden the ledger flips in favour of Short and you're out of the money all of a sudden. So I think that's the type of move you just make in the last 1 or 2 weeks if you think there's a genuine matchup that you suspect Dawson's going to thrive in versus Shorty in a tough game. Shorty's given up the kick-ins, which is very annoying. Like, he used to get 20 free kicks from the full-back zone. So that's disappeared, and he plays up the ground. He's more efficient. He has goal assists. So they're harder to get. So I do think that you right now, if I look at all the people in the questions here, anyone with 7 trades is in a privileged position vis-a-vis myself. Like, I've got 5. I've got a full team, but you have 2 extra trades to play with. So why don't you just go and chase an additional player or do that as the season progresses? As Mama went to there, we are going to be littered with a volume of injuries that will come. And obviously the final round is round 23 and you want to jump your teams then when teams are facing the rest, they're having a break, they're not playing players. You can make up hundreds of points in that week when people get faced with donuts. So for me, I think you're getting too cute with those trades. And my preference would be for you to hold Shorty and back your man in. You barrack for Richmond, you've got to hold Shorty. That's my view.
Yeah.
Well, I've watched him so closely. So closely that he just, he's getting a lot of the ball, so many kicks, but he just kicks it 50 meters into the air. Like, it's all, a lot of the time he'll receive a handball under pressure and then just bang it long, ineffective kick. But yeah, I don't know. I just feel like he doesn't, like, we've seen enough, almost seen enough from him since that move. He had that one good game against West Coast where they were playing a waffle midfield essentially. That I can't see him going above, 100 or even 100 from here. I reckon he's going to continue scoring those 80s, 100s. But yeah, it's a good point you make and that's why I held off last week in trading in Witts, for that one round sugar hit against Port Adelaide. It's just because those trades will be so valuable. And when the injuries do come, I may be 2 or 3 trades ahead. But yeah, anyway, enough about
Shorty's at least of your worries. Shorty's at least your worries. That example you proposed there. Witts is a valid premium, the number 1 ranked ruckman versus McComb. All due respect to McComb, he's got a good inside 50 kick, but he's not going to score more than 65 most weeks. So you probably could have made the move last week. And I don't like to go in retrospect and I don't like to dwell on the past, but that was probably the move. Going into Shorty territory now is probably just let your portfolio blossom. And if the data continues to confirm that he's on the trajectory downwards, maybe you look to get rid of him. But I don't think you're going to lose much cash, firstly. And Supercoach Rummer's on the money. There are more injuries to ensue. Aaron Hall, we know what his hamstrings are like. Sean Darcy, we know what his calves are like. All these matters will come to fruition in the next 6 to 8 weeks.
I will have to, talking about Short, I will have to short soon. I don't know, that was a bad pun. But let's talk about Stewart. What to do with Stewart very quickly. And I know some people don't have Stewart. But so obviously there's Dawson, who's the fandom would really highly recommend. Now, do we think Sicily is still, if you're stupid like me and I can't afford Sicily, but do you think he's kind of had 1 or 2 downer weeks? Do you think He's
Has
still
that
good.
coincided with CJ coming back in? Do you think he's not getting
I think
quite
I
as much of the ball? I haven't looked up the exact numbers on that.
I
But
think he's had a lot of
watching
kick-ins
him play.
pinched. Like Bramble, for some reason, I don't understand why, but Bramble pretty much pinches most of the kick-ins, and that was Sicily's bread and butter. That like propped his score up, and then it was the intercept possessions he'd take. And last week he played on Air Norton, tough day when he kicks a bag on you, and then you pull his headband back and get a $1,500 fine. I do think that Sicily, like you just got to close those holes in your team. Like I find that when I play SuperCoach year on year, if there's someone that's out of their skin and it's a short squeeze where you don't own them but they're going bananas, you just need to close that position as quickly as you can. It was Grundy for me about 3 years ago. It was Neil for me 2 years ago. It just makes the game really frustrating. And sometimes Tim gets very involved in those scenarios when he doesn't have players, and you just got to load up and get them in as quickly as you can. And it's a boring move, but Sicily, you got to have the number one defender, don't you? Like he's had a poor 2 to 3 weeks, but he is the number one defender by three points versus Sam Doherty. So I'd get him in.
Over Dawson.
Yeah, I reckon Dawson.
Same price.
Just. Look,
Dawson was
Dawson's draw.
Yep, and flexibility of mid defender. I'd take the mid defender over the straight defender.
What about some of these other names here, Dan? For people like me who, I suppose this is my first question is, I've got 5 trades, which is not quite as many as you, but more than some people. But would you go down to 3 to get Dawson? No. So I'd have to downgrade someone I could get D'Ambrosio, who's on the bubble, but I'd probably prefer not to do that given everything we've just discussed. So therefore, with 1 trade, I'm looking at the likes of an Aaron Hall or Daniel Rich. I don't mind Mick's suggestion here. I think in his last 5 games, he's only had one under 119, which was when he was tagged against the Giants. I'm not sure what happened to him in the first half of the year, but he seems to be coming good. Then you've got the likes of Whitfield, super cheap, or Dan Houston, even 530k. So there's a few decent options around there, but I can't afford Doherty. I've already got Sicily, thankfully. Can't afford Sinclair. Can't afford Dawson, who I would love. So what do you reckon?
I think 1 trade probably is the go there. There are still some good options. I think Dawson's probably the standout if you can afford him that extra 30k on a Tom Stewart. But I think if you're under, about that 5 or under trade mark, that it's probably just the 1 trade there. Daniel Rich is a really nice pod, and he's producing some really good results even when they're not playing so well. So 119, 119, and 135 in his last 3 matches. And as you said, that tag with the Giants, I don't think many teams are going to be tagging him in the run home. So I like Rich's option. I don't mind Houston either, just because of his ceiling. I've been in a group chat with a couple of mates who both own Houston, and I'll tell you what, I hear about it when he has a good game, but they're pretty quiet when he's has that odd stinker. But he has the capacity to score above 120. I think 5 over 120 so far, and he's only at the 535k. And I think on average he's either 6th or 7th overall. So he's essentially a top 8 defender, and could really go bang in the back half of the year when the Power are needing to win games. I feel like if you're I guess not using 2 trades to get Dawson, then you can't really justify getting Hall with the 1 trade, because you're likely you may be likely to trade him out anyway in one if he does get injured. So, but if you do love his upside and you think that he's going to keep on getting a kilometre of meters gained every week,
100 meters,
then he had 1,100, which was just ridiculous. But yes, I think that.
Yeah, I'm going Hall, and I'm going in eyes wide open, I suppose you could say. I understand. And look, he has had 2 hamstring injuries already this year. Everyone had these concerns with him last year, and he didn't get injured for me. But it is different this year. But he just has too much of a higher ceiling. I'm using 1 trade going for it, and then if I have to use another trade, then so be it. Or I might have Ware as D6.
And you probably are protected with Hall, and then he just punched out 152, which means his price is protected for the next 2 to 3 weeks. So you can take a risk on Hall, knowing you're not going to lose capital and not be able to get to Dawson or someone else if that eventuates he does another hammy. But what's the likelihood of a person 3rd time lucky doing a hammy? I wouldn't suspect so. He's had 8 weeks to get it right, and he takes all the kick-ins. So I think it's a great call. One trade, 1 hit wonder, and just move on. He'll play every game to the end of the year, I think.
Yeah. Just wanted to say, I follow Chris on SuperCoach Insiders on Twitter and also in a group chat. And his idea is to use 2 trades, but not on Stewart, but on getting Stephen May.
This isn't Tim, is it?
He's 499k, and you get him and put Stewart on the bench, get Stephen May, use 2 trades with your rookies, and then once Stewart comes back, you have Stewart, and then you have Stephen May as your D7. Now, it sounds great. However, I don't have the rookies to do it. I would be sacrificing playing rookies. So he suggested someone like Greg Clark, who's not actually who's not in the top 22 at the moment. And I think that's good use of cash, but if you're more of a league player, I think that's good. But if you're going down to 3, it's still risky. But Tom Stewart is going to be an absolute killer pod in your league finals. If you're already in your top 4 of your league, you're playing league, and you can manage to keep Stewart. Not the worst, but Stephen May. I don't know. I actually have a soft spot for him, but
there's going to be a few of those pods because, no, just quickly, sorry, Dan, but, if people kept Stewart or someone still has Max Gawn or they can get Jack Steele back or Grundy, who knows what's happening with him. So, yeah, that's going to be interesting, but they're probably for people who have more trades.
Yes.
Yeah, yes. And just on Stephen May, so, I mean, his 2 main scoring avenues are kick-ins and intercepts, really. He's a bit of a kick-in pig, always just kicks it straight to a long kick out to the left-hand side of the ground. And you look at earlier in the year, I think he had 4 tons in a row, 108, 114, 111, and 131. That was more at the start of the year. But it is actually a decent option. It's one I'm actually thinking could be a move if I traded Ware and McComb and then just upgraded Ware to May and then sort of chose between Stewart and May. As that similar. Because, I mean, he doesn't necessarily have a high ceiling, but he can hit those tons. And he has got that backing with the kick-ins where he usually gets about 20, 25 points per game. So, but if you wanted to wait a week on May as well, he's got a break in 150. So this SuperCoach Plus projects that he'll actually be 357k next week. That's with a score in the 60s though. But yeah, so if you wanted to wait a week and save even more cash, you could potentially do that. But yeah, I guess if you're already, missing out on a week of Stewart, you probably want that guy like a Stephen May right away.
Yep. So Ron, we like it. Stephen May, finish your team. If you're short on cash, do it.
Yeah, wow, big move. Em, you've got to leave us shortly. Any other final pieces of advice?
Just watch the team sheets tonight. Pray and don't cry. And I think this is the time. Whatever you do, VC Oliver. If you've got Oliver, if you don't have Oliver, shame on you. No, VC Oliver if you have him because he's done 200s against Adelaide. So, and he's on his way to 219 last time we played Adelaide, and he got scaled down annoyingly. Put the VC on him. I reckon hold fire on that VC. If you've got enough captain options and loophole, make sure you have a loophole. Thank goodness for Tickle.
But that's worked out really well.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. We normally talk about captains off the end, but yeah, I think Oliver obviously being the standout option this week. But yeah, there's some really good options earlier on with like McRae has a great record against Hawthorn, but then if he got 130, would you take that anyway? I think if you do have a 0 playing after Oliver, best to VC him. And then hopefully just take his score and you're fine. And if for some reason he gets tagged or hurt or something goes wrong, then find someone in one of the later games, which might be Darcy for me, given the order of the matches and what we were talking about before. But yeah, you might have to get a bit creative. But yeah, I think it's safer to put the VC on Oliver if you can do it that way.
Part of me is thinking, surely, like fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Like if they do it a third time, if they let him go for the third time to score 200 points at Adelaide Oval, surely they're doing something wrong. Like I reckon I don't know. I've got
they won one of those games, didn't they?
I think they did, But I mean, he's pretty much been like their clear best player both times. Surely they're going to put a little bit more, opposition on him.
He was tagged. They tagged him in the grand final with SuperCoach last year. They played the MCG, and Schoenberg and a few other players ran through him, and they kept him quiet. They kept him like 27, 28 touches, and they kept him maybe 105 points. So Nix is not silly, right? Like he's improving as a coach. That club is improving. He will have an opponent, and that's why I'm thinking of running the McRae tonight, because I know McRae will get big points. And I'll go, well, why would I ever throw 145 points in the bin? Like that's like good luck to all the owners that get Ollie on Saturday and he goes big. He's not going to go triple ton for the third time in a row. It's not happening because as I saw in that final game last year, I was in the granny. I didn't have Clary. And for the first time, someone put some time into him. So Nix is aware of him and Nix will put time into him. He's had 3 monster games recently. And I think Crows would be remiss of themselves not to do that.
And just quickly on, so Georgios Zipolitos has said that Clary obviously signed that massive deal today as well, 7 years, until the end, until 2030. And does that mean that he doesn't have that, that extra bit of motivation against a bottom 4 side? Does he just sort of, I've got the job done. I've got my millions in the bank. Obviously we talk about a lot of players in that contract year do perform well. Obviously he's the sort of guy that is quite consistent.
So 2030, get on him.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly right. But I think that, I don't know. I feel like I would just want to go Macrae VC tonight because, you don't want to put all your chips in on Oliver, I don't think, especially when Macrae in his 200th game, he averages 134 points against the Lions. And that's across about 11, 12 games. So he's done it consistently against them. And they don't really have a tagging option. So, I like Macrae. And I think that if he goes over 130, you probably just take it.
Yeah, fair enough. Quick one. We better wrap things up shortly. But this one for you, Dan Bagala. Stewart to Jake Lloyd, 148 points last week. The Lloyd of old, but I think he only scored about 40 the week before. So probably not the right year for Jake, I don't think. But would you be tempted?
I actually had a friend that he had Lloyd as a pod, and he had that 40 last week, and he actually shorted him this week for someone I can't recall who. No. I think he had to cover his ruckman. He had to cover his ruck, and he's gone 143. But what I saw in that player on the weekend, he was back running the top of the ground, really burning people with his aerobic capacity, his repeat run efforts, etc. But again, Blakey does hold the kryptonite to his scoring. Like I guess it's a bit of a role thing for him each week. So I probably wouldn't go there yet. I probably want one more game from Jake to prove that he is back in town. But he's like a proven superstar of the defense. Like if he turns it around and comes home at 440 grand, whatever it is, it could be an amazing pod, better than the Stephen May pod, I suspect, for the rest of the year. But I think I'd probably go Whitfield right now before I went Lloyd. Whitfield's now put 3 games of work together since the coaching changeover and looks to be similar ilk, like running atop the ground, back to his free reigning role, not really defending too hard, just running forward of centre. So I'd probably go to Witters before I went there, but there are a lot of stalwarts of SuperCoach starting to float about the market at a discounted price. There's some good names out there, but unfortunately for me, team's set. I've got English sort of chilling on the pine, but full squad, so no moves this week. Glad to finally miss an injury or suspension. So I think tonight I will probably run the numbers again. I think I'll go Macrae into Clary, or I'll go. I don't like to wait to Saturday. I don't like that. I like to throw my best players with the scoring potential into the gauntlet, and I think Macrae is that. What we saw the last 2 weeks with Macrae is the best ball winner in the comp is back, in my opinion. That's what I think. But again, it's don't trust that advice. It's just what I've seen in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, Whitfield and Lloyd, the same price, basically, 463K. So, I don't mind the way Whitfield's travelling. I don't know if he's going to be that sort of 110-plus guy we hoped at the start of the year, but he certainly looks like he could average probably 100 from here. So, if you wanted someone cheap, Hall, 508K. So, I mean, that's way cheaper than what I had him in my team at the start of the year before he got that first hamstring. It's just, can I, carry the nerves each week of hoping he gets through the game? I mean, at 31, I think he is. He's had a couple of hammies already. Yeah, it's going to be pretty nerve-wracking. The other one I was looking at, who we haven't mentioned, is Bailey Dale, who's around that 530K price as well. He's just he's a pretty boring pick, but he's very reliable. I think his lowest score for the year is 87, and his highest is about 115. So he's around the 105 mark pretty much every single week. So he's definitely an option for me. But I probably need to make up my mind who I'm going to go with. There's a few options there. Daniel Rich also has been high on my radar as a single trade option for Stewart. So, I mean, what do you think? Finish off, Dan, do you think you got 7 trades left? Will you still have 7 after this round, or are you planning on using 1 or 2 of them?
I think I'm definitely going to use 1 to go McComb to D'Ambrosio. Obviously, the Bulldogs play tonight, so just have that out of the way. And then I think assess how I'm going in comparison. Because, I mean, I just feel like that Dawson, and getting that top line, I feel like he is going to be the D1 from here. And Jaden Short, will he even be a top 8? I'm not really sure with just the strength of the defensive line at the moment. And by trading Short to Dawson, and the Macomb trade, I should have enough to hopefully then potentially even go a Petrarca to Steele next week. So it's not like it's just using up all my cash on that one move. So yeah, I'm just being a little bit down on the rest of the pack. I reckon this may be a bit of a time to sort of maximize it. So I'll be using at least one, but I'm thinking two at this stage.
I must say, if I could find a way to get Jack Steele back in, I would like that. I mean, there's something in that Jake Lloyd discussion we could mention is that the Saints were just absolutely horrible last week, but Steele looked pretty good. Like he scored about a 120 in a shocking defeat. So ignore Lenny in the background there. Maybe I think someone's mentioned next week he's got to break even about 130, I think, and he's already 550 odd K. So. But yeah, like I share the same worry as you. Like if it's a Petrarca or a Zach Merritt, whichever one you trade out, guaranteed to go on and score 150. So it's really tricky. But you think over the 8 rounds for the rest of the year, you're going to get a lot more points out of someone like Jack Steele. But I mean, the other quick question just to finish off, I guess that I was curious to ask you guys, Dan Bagala, how do you think the rucks are going to play out in the next couple of weeks when? We're going to be like, assuming Bruce comes back and actually plays, am I happy to just run out the rest of the season with, Darcy and Bruce as my ruck line? And then there's people who have Luke Jackson, people who have Darcy Cameron. When Gawn and Grundy come back, it might knock those guys scoring down. Do we need to be, keeping some trades up our sleeve for, when that happens and maybe to try and get a Gawn back?
Yeah, I think we should think about that because, like, Gawn, as we know, has that uncapped ceiling. He can go 200. He's done it already this year with 198 versus Sydney. He has done a syndesmosis. He's a mobile player that loves to cover the ground and play 95+% tog. So for me, I think the only impact is that he'll thwart a bit of Jackson's scoring, but I do think he'll play predominantly forward when he returns. I think he'll sit at the full forward zone. Jackson will continue to shoulder majority of the load for the first part until he gets his fitness up and his resilience back, or whatever you want to call it. The other scenario is Grundy. I don't think he's going to have any relevance this year, just the way that the Pies are playing. Darcy's thriving. Why would you rush him back when your team's humming along and there's like susceptibility of him re-injuring what is a pretty bad injury that he did? The PCL is pretty bad. I wouldn't worry for now. I think like if Bruce gets back and he gets back to that performance of 110 per week, you're probably only losing 5-10 points per week to English. But the question mark is, does English return, or does he still have a lingering concussion that affects him for 4 to 6 weeks? We don't know this thing. So like I'm a holder. I'm backing in the information I'm receiving from Bevo, which is he's likely to play next week. But that could get stretched. We don't know. Like they could take a very conservative view. He got whacked in the jaw like a UFC punch last year. So it's sort of, I mean, you never know how bad that knocks people around. But for me, I don't think you need to cross that bridge until the problem arises. I think for now, just play the rucks you've got. If Gawn comes back and he goes 200, or Grundy comes back and goes 200, well, then you might need to move the chess pieces around. But until then, I wouldn't worry. I think the rucks are doing a great job. Dogger was fantastic last week. Dogger will be great this week. Witts has been fantastic. Darcy Cameron is just coming of age every week. So I don't think there's any worries until they really present. That will not be for the next 2 to 3 weeks, I suspect. So I wouldn't worry. You just need Bruce back, and that's no guarantees on that, it seems.
Yeah.
Maybe pass that suspension fitness test.
Just quickly on Darcy Cameron. So I guess my plan, I don't have English at the moment. So I'm sort of hoping that their prices sort of go about the same, and then I can just sideways a Darcy Cameron to English. English does have a break even of 160, but I don't think there'll be plenty of options that present for a Darcy Cameron, or if you wanted to trade out a Braden Bruce in a few weeks. But yeah, it's with Cameron as well. I think Grundy, even on the injury list, he's still listed as about 3 or 4 weeks away. So I'd almost be willing to just wait a week on Cameron, see how he plays with Grundy, if that scoring potential maintains, or like what sort of ruck split they have, maybe cop 170 and then sideways him after that. Looks like we've lost Bagala now. I
think his computer died, so we probably should wrap things up. Yeah, and I'd be interested to see what Collingwood do with Grundy, because it's working so well at the moment. Mason Cox is dominating, so how they put them all, how they fit them all in the same team is going to be a challenge for Craig McRae. But anyway, probably a good one to have. Rover. Yeah, exactly. I'll just put him in the forward pocket or something. We better just finish off with our favourite zinger of the week. I always struggle to find the logo. Where is it? Should know it by now. Here we go. All right, do that, and then that, and I saw one that I thought was quite good, which, hang on, except I've just turned off the...
Oh no, we lost him.
No,
the wheels are falling off.
There it is. From Alex, one of our favourites. Yes, we talked about this. People with trades. Some people down. So yeah, we've had a few with only one trade. So yes, our sympathy with Alex. I don't know if anyone's willing to do that kind of deal. But if you
on the black market.
Yeah, exactly. We're nothing official in terms of SuperCoach sanctioning that, but
yeah, I think Big Footy will do that, maybe.
That's very good. But yeah, look, I mean, if you have only, obviously one is extremely low, but if you're getting really low on the trades, basically your final trade should be to cover donuts. So even if you've got a Jacob Ware on the bench or someone like that, and you've lost Tom Stewart for 4 weeks, you just play that player. I think if I only had one trade, I'd just play Jacob Ware and hope I can sort of get through, because you might need that trade later on when one of your rucks goes down and you don't have any cover for him. So any points are better than zero would be my philosophy from here.
Yeah, I think that's a good philosophy. And I mean, I don't know, I'm starting to I mean, having SuperCoach, last year's winner, and also Dan Magala, who's a consistent top 300 finisher, telling me not to trade out Jaden Short. I'm going to have a lot of thinking to do over the next 5 or 6 hours. It may be better, like especially with the likes of Gawn and that coming back, and I've probably got to trade out Cameron as well. Who knows? So, yeah, I reckon I might change my decision and go with holding on and just doing the one trade.
Yeah, I mean, those trades could be absolute gold in a few weeks when people are really running low and having to. They're either got donuts or they're relying on just playing a Jacob Ware because they can't afford to be using any more trades, and you can just do a side swap would be a huge advantage. I heard someone try and do a calculation this week where they figured how many injuries we've had so far this year, how many rounds there are to go. Reckon we'll get maybe one serious injury every 2 or 3 weeks, which means we should have another, expect another 2 or 3. So, I mean, that's bad enough. But then, as Em mentioned earlier, I think last week we had probably 2 or 3 in the 1 week. So, it can really hit you like a ton of bricks. So, yeah, trades could be extremely valuable. Early in the year, we were all for just trade like crazy. And it's crazy to think that, I think I've got 5 trades left, which feels all right. Last year, we only had 30 for the year. I'd be down to 0.
Yeah.
So, thank God we got those extra ones.
Yeah,
all right, we better leave it there. Thank you, Dan, for coming on. Thanks, Dan, as well, and Em obviously have had to leave, but it was great to have them. So thanks, everybody, for watching. Hopefully I get my computer issues and everything sorted out for next week, but you got some good advice out of that. We'll talk to you again very soon on KFC SuperCoach TV.